This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles, on the Rockstar Radio Network. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and the Book Shepherd on the Rockstar Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, a fabulous top of the day to all of you. Publishing world is very active, and there's a lot's going on. I have great news to share. I'm so excited that my 30th book has gone to print, and we're actually going to be doing a print edition here in the States, in North America, as well as overseas, because there is so much going on with it. We're actually putting a DVD in it, and it's 4-color throughout, which really demands the Chinese influence here, and the cost factors are huge. But we're really excited about Author U, creating and building your author and book platforms. And I've done a few shows on building the platform and how critical it is. And I know right after tonight's show, I'll be zipping over to the Author U monthly meeting that they hold at the mothership here in Colorado. And then, of course, we do have our other events that we do for our global members, where the webinars and the teleseminars, and then we have our book camps, and, of course, the May 2nd through 4th extravaganza. But I was putting together how important it is and working on it. And one of the spiels I'm going to do 30 hot marketing tips in 30 minutes with our group, so we can really get in and you start thinking. And one of the tips I said is, it is always smart when you are chatting as an author to ask the person you're chatting with, do they buy books? That is one of the tips. And you can spend a lot of time selling your book, promoting your book, being your advocate for your book. But if you're talking to someone who's not a book reader and you have a book for sale, whether it's an ebook or a print book or not a book, and they tell you, well, I don't buy books, you really are wasting a lot of time, and you need to be really tuned into that. The second thing is that it's really important to really ask them if they, not only do they buy books, but maybe a question before that would be, do they read books? Or do they listen to books? Or how do they? Because in the whole game of marketing and being successful as an author, you need to know who your audience is, how they connect with each other, and each other meaning your book and the reader, before you really put a lot of energy into it. And that may be a little harsh and a little cold, a little black and white, but we need to be realistic in that arena. So that's one of the tips, two of the tips actually, that I will be giving out. And another tip that's really, really successful, and I think that authors absolutely need to get with it. You have to be on social media. So if you're still dragging your heels, some of you are not using some of the resources, get someone to help you in that area. We're into the smartphone arena. We need to really use them. There's all these apps that will make your life easier, and there's these management tools that will make your life easier. So one of the tips that I want to give, dealing with the whole area of reaching out and connecting with your marketing, your audience, is really aggressively building your Twitter followers. I'm more inclined to go on Twitter because I like that quick. I find that if I was getting sucked into Facebook and spending too much time, and I don't have it to do it. So I really learned the value of the hashtag community, finding the followers of hashtags, the creators of hashtags, that you can use within your respective tweets along with those keywords will really build your tribe, your followers much quicker, as well as getting your targeted a message out there. So remember that. And also another tip is remember for Twitter, it's 15-1. You want to have for 15 tweets, you want to have solid information. And you want to have then something might be more of a personal side or a fun side. Also, I've really discovered for Twitter is that people love quotes. So why don't you, whatever your book's about, whether it's mystery, whether it's intrigue, whether it's romance, whether it's inspiration, motivation, whether it's political, historical, business, whatever it's about, one of the savvy things that you can do is really get out there and start finding quotes that really will tie in with that specific topic, your genre, and that your followers will really start putting on. So with those 3 tips, what I want to do is then move into the topic of our program. I've brought back, really by popular demand and my popularity, I loved him. Gary Ryan Blair, I felt so connected. He's so grounded and so common sense. And Gary is known as the goals guy. And that is his registered trademark. It's a highly focused training organization whose mission is to help their clients build and sustain, and that's really a key operative word, sustain superior performance. So he's known as I said, the goals guy. He's a #1 best-selling author. The title of his book is Everything Counts. He's spent over 20 years developing his expertise in areas that really relate to all things in and around peak performance. One of the events that he does, and he is just getting ready to kick it off, and I wanted to include him on that so you would all know about it, is his 100-day challenge. It's perfect for this end of the year as we come into this final quarter here. It's been used by over 5 million people worldwide. And so with that, Gary, welcome back to your guide to book publishing.
I've been looking forward to this call for a while. How are you?
I'm great. I'm jazzed. I was just telling our listeners when I just started, my 30th book went to print, went to press to print this last week, and we're going to come up with a deluxe edition of it, and when we print overseas, it include a DVD that's being just the final editing on it. So I'm excited. So we'll officially launch it in November, but we will let people get their hands on the one that we will have here next month. It'll be available next month. So I'm excited.
That's a pretty significant milestone. Congratulations.
Yeah, it is. The big 3-0. Who would have thought, Gary? When I did my first book, and I don't know if I told you the story, how I came across my first book was a well-known columnist, a best-selling author, beloved person, humorist, actually ripped off several of my ideas and sent me a letter saying, "Hey, I might use some of your ideas that you suggested in my next column." And that's when the aha came to me that if I didn't start taking some of my own ideas, other people would continue to take them. Mm-hmm. Which is a worthwhile goal, I would say.
It's interesting. Whether it's in writing or anything, I think, there's a lot of comedians who sit in the audience of another comedian and, they go off and rip their content in the same way that actors stare at other actors and wonder what they're, how they mimic or hold their hands or do certain things. It's part of the business. But the fact of the matter is, ultimately, the success for anybody is your ability, really, to continue to create content. So people can rip you off, but they can't steal your mind. Your mind is the most creative and powerful vehicle that you have at your disposal. So outthink them, outpromote them, and, just out-strategize them, and you'll always be ahead of the game.
Well, I think so. And, our last conversation talked about some of the repurposing that can be done. And those derivatives and deviations that you can do when you just don't get stuck with one book. There's variations of the theme, and I think that ties in with your whole 100-day challenge. So for our authors, I think one of the challenges that we should really throw out right now is what's the next thing? What can they do next? How can they tweak what they're currently doing with their expertise and their work and take them to a whole nother level?
Perhaps a good perspective or a metaphor might be helpful to kind of illustrate that point for everybody.
Hey.
I'm a big believer. You know, I do a lot of work in strategic planning, but I'm a big believer that that many of the things that people believe and say are that most of them are false. People say life is unpredictable. And quite frankly, I think life is very predictable. And here's the nice part about it, especially as it relates to your comment on the next thing. There's I have a grid that I have created. There's actually 37 unique predictable milestones in someone's life. It begins with birth, it ends with death. Everything in between is very predictable. You know, you go through the ages and so forth, but let's just say a child is born. You know they're going to, at a short period of time, switch from soft food to harder food. They're going to crawl, go from diapers into, you know, more of a traditional underwear. You can predict, you know, puberty, maybe not to the day, but there are milestones throughout your life that you could clearly and easily see the next 2, 3, 4 turns around the bend. And the same thing for your business. You need to have that understanding that, you know, your job is to determine what the future looks like and identify what are the next few steps. You can position yourself to take advantage of those things well in advance, but it's very predictable and it's a lot easier, in my opinion, than most people really give it any thought to.
So, in addition to our 37 predictable that we know from the birth being number 1 and death being number 37. But then we have all our subsets in there, and that's where your probably 100 days comes really into play. And I know we have 1 minute here to the next break here. So I just want to ask this first question because today is September 20th. And what is significant about today?
It's extremely important. You know, there are 265 days have expired. You have had 265 days to show the world how you really are. There's 100 days left. And you've got to take inventory of your strengths, of your results, and ask yourself if you're on target or off target. And off target, you've got to realize that this is a non-negotiable deadline. You've got to change something, some strategy, some behavior, in order to get better quantifiable results. And I know that's obviously what we're going to be talking about this evening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we have 100 smack days left till the end of the year. That kind of wants to make me choke a little bit. I mean, 10. Oh, my God. Where's it gone? All right. So when we come back, we're going to start getting into that. We're going to get into the 100-day challenge, why it's important to you. My guest is Ryan Blair, the expert in all this. And you're going to hear how you can get involved with the challenge and become a more powerful, effective, and successful author. I'm Judith Briles. It's your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Change the way you publish online. WaveCloud is a new forum for authors to manage all their books' information in one place from start to finish, including pricing and listing summary. To learn more or sign up for email updates, visit wavecloud.com.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so here we are, day one of the first of the last 100 days of the year. And Gary Ryan Blair, the goals guy, has kicked off his launch. And we asked him why it was significant, and it's in its big block. And he told me off the air, well, I'm going to have him just tell you. So this is a program signing up. Authors need to pay attention to this because this is where you go. This is big time. But Gary has a few people that follow his words globally. And he set up this extraordinarily sophisticated, unique, but uncomplicated. As when I would check in as I went along, I would look at the pre-launch videos. It only took a few minutes to look at them, but he set it up. It launched today on the 100th day, the first of the 100th day of the end of the year, and already just a few hours in it. How many are signed up for the program, Gary?
Just over 32,000.
And do you want to tell our listeners what that means in revenues, or can we? Okay.
No, I'll be happy to. As a matter of fact, while I was waiting to come back, I just checked. I was just handed a number, 4.6.04. So $6.5 million. It should be $4.5 million.
That's huge. So it took me 30 years to make that kind of money from my books. So, well, but at least I did it.
It sounds impressive, but if you bank that against, let's just say what Apple did last Friday, they did $1 billion in one day with the iPhone. So.
Oh my God, and that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
What you have to do is realize that there's different ways to sell product, and most people do a one-to-one sale. I mean, the fact is, if you just look at it, not even economically, if you just look at it from the standpoint of time leverage, for a product launch, for me, rather than just make one individual sale, I'm going to create an entire model, set up an entire system that I could sell one to many. So one email goes out and broadcast out worldwide to, a large group of folks. And my goodness, they could all come in and take, jump into the shopping cart all at one time. You could never, ever do that in a physical store where you'd have 32,000 people walk into a Gap. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, yeah. And the Gap thing can be pretty bloody big.
It's very true.
All right. So you've got this huge launch, and let's go. We've got the beginning of the 100 days. We have the end of the 100 days, and how does that affect if you really have something going like what you're doing? I mean, you've got a great kickoff today, and it'll probably add on a whole bunch more before the evening ends. That how does that affect the really ending strong for an author, for anybody, really anybody, but since we're about authors here, to really come in, because a lot of people, I think, get a little lazy. Summer loosen up, and then when we get into the fall, we start thinking, oh my God, I've got the holidays, I've got this and that, and I see people start loosening up a little bit.
Well, if you remember this, there's an old saying, how you practice is how you perform. I mean, we've all heard that. And there's a lot of people, their preparation and their overall, practice, whatever it is they're engaged in, is pretty weak and wimpy. And then when you see them on stage or give a presentation, they're dreadful. It's an embarrassment. And they've embarrassed themselves. They missed a wonderful opportunity. Well, in this case, if you take the time to look at 2013, how you finish 2012 is how you're going to start 2013. And if you finish weak, wimpy, apathetic, going through the motions, kind of just chewing on the holiday fat, what's going to happen is a fresh new slate. Beautiful. 365 brand new days. And you are in a lethargic, apathetic, or just kind of a lazy state because you don't have any sustained momentum, any real excitement or mojo. You're starting from a dead stop. Not an enviable position to be in. So that's one of, I could probably rattle off 15 different solid reasons, but that's a very important one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what happens if you're in that spot, though, Gary? Let's say someone didn't hear us live right now, and they go through the laundry list, because we'll, as you know, we create the tweets and we send them out, start sending them out, so they rotate all the time. But let's say someone picks this up on December 22, and what would you advise them to do at that point when they're now into the 91st day of the 100th day?
Well, here's the good part about it. The program is set up, obviously, for 100 straight days. So if someone does start, let's just say next Tuesday, and it's legitimately there's 96 days left in the year, what you'll find is the program will still continue into 2013. It'll end, January 4th. So it's not like you're going to lose anything. It's just you're just not going to be, calendar clock, if you will, associated with that final 100 days. But put aside, that whole thing. Here's ultimately what it comes down to. I know you've got a number of different questions for me, but let me just take this. In everyone's life, there are a series of gaps, just performance gaps in terms of where you are and where you want to be. And very simple, let's just say somebody wants to weigh 150 or 120 and they're currently 150. There's a 30-pound gap that you need to close that execution gap. Some people may have debt, maybe 20 or 30 or 10 or $5,000, and you want to close that gap. Same thing as it relates towards X number of books that you want to sell. You want to sell 1,000 or 500 or 1,400 copies between now and the end of the year. You've got some type of a gap. So this whole program is designed to just expedite the gap, is to facilitate your process very, very quickly. Now, I think even a more important conversation that we should probably have is from a marketing standpoint, because I want to give your listeners, Judith, a really unique perspective as to finding a spot and exploiting it and doing everything you can to own that position in the marketplace. So let's focus on ownership, if you don't mind.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So what's the gap? What's the ownership? And how do we close it?
You got it. Well, my thinking was when I first started the business, the goals guy, my objective was very simple. I scaled and really looked at the marketplace, and I realized everybody spoke about this subject, but nobody owned it. Nobody truly owned it. And you know what I mean by that, where they are the name in that specific industry, just the kind of the way that it goes. In the same way that, you remember years ago, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, that whole spot was owned by Jonathan Gray. Well, in this case, I focused it on goal setting, and I've never really moved from that mark. Now, I was more interested a couple of years ago, I was consumed with owning a day. Now, let me tell you where that came from. I looked at the annual marketing calendar, and I was looking for an opportunity that I could exploit that was virgin ground that no one figured out yet. If you look at Mother's Day, Father's Day, Groundhog's Day, and most of these nonsense holidays, quite frankly, these were just nonsense. They were the things that were made up in order to sell stuff. That's all they are. That's the only reason why they exist. And they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. Now, any smart marketer is going to use the annual marketing calendar, which, again, is very predictable. New Year's resolutions, Valentine's Day, Groundhog's Day, Columbus Day, and you walk right on through from St. Patty's right to Hanukkah, Christmas, Halloween, and all that type of stuff. So whatever event that you're promoting, you try to tie in a Halloween theme, if you will. In the same way that magazines have a theme a month. Martha Stewart, her Halloween magazine is out right now. There's pumpkins all over it. Okay. Well, for me, I was looking for my own Groundhog's Day, my own evergreen event that came year in and year out, and I could exploit, I could own. And you know what it was? It was September 20th. It happens every single year. It's the last 100 days of the year. And I created an ownership position. So I own, obviously, 100daychallenge.com, registered a whole series of domains around finishing strong and all this type of stuff. I've literally honed in, owned that specific spot. And now what you do, once you identify this, you need a story. So for me, the story was very simple. 265 days, 100 days to go. Now let me tell everybody why this story is so important. Steve Jobs, when he introduced the iPad, it's not the iPad. What's the first generation?
Oh, the
iPod.
I was going to say the nanopod, the iPod.
Well, well, you're right. Yeah. What he did was he stood on stage, and this was the best elevator speech. It was so tight and simple. And he pulled it out of his pocket. He walked up on stage, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, 1,000 songs in your pocket." It's very simple, very just straight to the point. It was so crystal clear. And that's the story for me. 265 days down, 100 days to go. Crystal clear, cuts right to the chase. Let's have a conversation as to what you can do in order to finish the year strong. So it doesn't matter what the book is. I don't care any of your listeners. It is so important for you to create a unique hook. Create an event, something goofy, silly, memorable, and quite frankly, goofy works. Silly works. It really does. So it's a very, very smart thing. But I got to tell you this much. This idea of exploiting the 20th of September is going to take care of my family for many, many generations. It just is.
So did you register it on Chase's? Let me ask you this. Perfect. So we have like 45 seconds here before we go to our bottom of the hour already. But for all our listeners, you ought to know about chase.com to register these events and own it. And you can't register anything for next year, 2013. It will open up in the spring again and go into 14. But get in there and claim a day that just what he's talking about, making an evergreen, fabulous event. So that was my 2 bits, my commercial for them.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to commercial. That's cool. Okay, no problem. Well, so that's kind of the whole story, but I think it's really important.
All right. So when we're
going to commercial.
Now we go into it. He's going to get into a little bit more of the history, but then he's going to tell us about the secret sauce. How do you make this slick, click, and tick? We'll be right back. It's your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you with a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
Do you need postcards that make a statement? How about business cards, flyers, brochures, or NCR forms? Tuvets is the solution for all your printing needs. Providing services specially designed for authors, we deliver exceptional quality colored printing. Most important of all, we specialize in reducing your printing costs. No more waiting. No more standing in lines at your local printer. Online proofing. With our pricing tools calculator, you can get instant quotes on all your printing products, as well as shipping rates all over the United States. Just a few clicks of the mouse and you're on the way to discovering how easy and convenient online color printing should be. Contact our friendly, human account representatives. We recognize that you want answers, not voice prompts. Visit our website at www.tu-vets.com or call 1-800 894-8977.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers, creating beautiful and well-made books. We're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so Gary and I are really into this. We want to hear about the secret sauce, and then he just told me this amazing secret sauce about for doing his launching, but he also told me something else that you all will note about, and the number that he expects going to be happening by the end of the week is how many people growing from 32,000 to how many, Gary?
To 150,000 by the end of September 28th, next Friday.
Okay, so fivefold, and he shared with you that so far it's 4.6 million. So let's multiply that by 5, dear listeners, and you're talking about more than enough money to go out for dinner. So pay attention because this guy knows how to do it. All right, so let's get into we found how to create. You created your evergreen event. You've got it posted on Chase every September 20th. You own the day, and the world knows it now. And then you have the whole secret sauce of how do you make it all work. And this is not a light venture because you have these massive videos that are going on. You've got people who are coming on at all times during the day. I mean, aren't you? I mean, do you ever lose any sleep that the whole system crashes, Gary?
Yeah, I do. You're constantly running scared, but that's there's a great book. Andy Grove wrote it. He was the CEO of Intel years ago. It was titled "Only the Paranoid Survive," and he's right. You technology and what if scenarios, it drives you crazy, but you learn to roll with it.
And so you rolled with it, and you've moved it from being totally in-house to using other servers, correct?
Oh, without a doubt. As I mentioned before, we moved over to Amazon. I've got quite a bit of confidence that a Fortune 500 company is not going to allow themselves to, turn the lights out. And the same thing with a couple of other vendors. So I think we're in pretty darn good shape.
Well, that sounds pretty true. Okay, so let's get into the secret sauce.
Yeah. So what do you want to know? You want to know what makes this thing work?
Yes.
Okay.
I want it.
Well, here's the skinny on this, and we may have discussed this before, but it's worthwhile repeating. People need evidence that they can create massive change quickly, that they could sell a lot of books in a short period of time. So let me give you some evidence outside of the book industry first. If you turn on a TV late at night, you're probably going to see P90X or Insanity or one of these things. And these are what you basically call extreme performance workouts. They are a 90-day go from fat to firm type of program, and you see transformational results, and they've got video after video and testimonial to provide evidence. This thing works. It is a fantastic program. Now, you turn on, ABC on Sunday night, and normally it takes 200 days in order to build a house. They build it in 7 days.
Oh, I know it. I love that.
Yeah. But if you take the time and you look at it, what is it that makes these things work? Number one, they each have a deadline, 7 days. If you turn on the TV also, let's just say you're watching Iron Chef or one of these type of competitions, they have literally an hour in order to make a 5-course meal, a gourmet 5-course meal, and to impress, 5-star Michelin award-winning, chefs. I mean, that are just the creme de la creme. You see that happening. And then you start to take the time to look at other things out there. You'll notice that we're all surrounded by deadlines. However, now, look at this. The fundamental premise is that most things and just about everything in life will take as long as you allow for it to take. And I want to repeat that, just so we understand it. It doesn't matter what the goal is, what the project is, what the book is. It will take as long as you allow for it to take. So if you're going to allow 10 years to write the book, that's how long it'll take. If you only allow 10 weeks or 10 months, that's all it's going to take. And you've got to start thinking that way. But if you look at life in general, you've got mortgage bills, credit card bills, cable bills, student loans. Every one of them comes with a deadline and a consequence. If you do not comply and honor the agreement, you are going to get dinged. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. However, when it comes to our own goals, the way we run our life and our business, very rarely do we run them on strict deadlines, that this goal has to be achieved by this date. If you do that, you'll be amazed as to what happens. So what the 100-Day Challenge really does is it is a program that relentlessly drives forth the importance of making serious commitments that you're going to keep, and put a deadline on each one of those. So I want to give all your readers or listeners a very simple example that happened 2 weeks ago here in my own family. My youngest son's name is Oscar. Oscar has an older brother, Ryan, who's 11, Libby, who's 10. All of my kids have their black belts right now. They've been doing it since they're 2 years old. Now, Ryan has been doing the unicycle, and he juggles, and he's actually, once in a while, probably 3 times last year, he wound up getting a paid gig, $40, but he's realizing that he could make money off of these little hobbies he picked up. So Oscar said, I want to learn how to ride a unicycle. I said, perfect. I said, let's go get you one. So we got it and go right home, and I knew my game plan, what it was going to be. Now, again, this just happened 2 Saturdays ago. And our driveway, end to end, if you drive up and down it, it's about 75, 80 yards. And I said, Oscar, here's the deal. I said, that other bike that you wanted, told you're going to have to work for and save your money and everything else? I said, how would you like to get that today? And he looked at me wild-eyed, like, what are you talking about? That's great. And I'm like, here's the deal. I said, right now it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, you've got to the end of the day. I said, if you can get down that driveway and back on your unicycle by the end of the day, we will go to the bike store and I will buy you that bike. And you know what? 5.5 hours later, he got down to the end of the driveway and back. That's what it took. An 8-year-old kid figured it out. My kids know the connection between cause and effect. But you know what? Some people will take 5 years to learn how to ride a unicycle. This kid did it in 5.5 hours. This is the type of results I'm talking about. So everybody, if you're listening, you have an option. You could pay off your mortgage in 30 years, or you could figure out a way to pay it off in 1 year. It could take you 40 years to take off 40 pounds, or you can do it in 100 days. The choice is up to yours. How long are you going to stay fat for? How long are you going to stay broke for? How long are you going to stay in debt for? How long are you going to sell only 20 books a month for? I mean, at what point in time are you going to stop settling for what you've always done and adopt a new strategy, a new way of doing things? That's really what we're talking about here.
Well, and that goes along with the definition of insanity. It's doing the same bloody thing over and over and over again. Yeah. So, yeah. And one of the challenges is that so many authors, when you look at some of the stats, that their sales are so dismal. And I know that we're going to have Dave Raymond join us in a few minutes, who's with Thompson Shore, who prints really exquisite quality books. And what they really, they would much rather deal with the author that's printing 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000, etc., and comes back to reprint because they're selling them successfully, versus the typical author who they're lucky if they can get 100 books moved because they don't have clear goals. It's so critical. It's so critical. in all of that. All right, so the secret sauce is you set that specific goal, and by God, that's what you're going to go for. It's not a dream, it's the goal, and that's going to happen within a specific period of time. Is that basically the bottom line?
The deadline's killer. There's three elements here, so let's go through them all. I mean,
Great.
put a triangle in front of you on a piece of paper, and there's 3 points on it. There's the what, the why, and the how. Another way of looking at it is the head, the heart, and the hand. The what is the head, the why is the heart, the hand is the how, is the part you've got to go through. Now, in terms of the what itself, the goal on top of that pyramid, every goal that you set needs to be specific, measurable, and time-bound. Let me give you evidence why. From a specific standpoint, none of us could be on this phone call or listening to this via the internet or whatever it is unless we were absolutely 100% precise and crystal clear as to what phone number or what website we were going to. We do not live in a gray matter world. We live in a black and white world. The digital world eliminates gray matter. You're either right or wrong. That's it. That's just the way it works. Either you dial the right numbers exactly, or you do not get to speak to that party. So what I like to a certain extent, about today's technology, it is very emphatic as it relates towards specificity. And you either show up prepared, and hit the target exactly, or it is win or go home. Now, that's exactly the way you need to set your goals. However, most people are very ambiguous. They say stuff like, I want to sell more books, I want to be a best-selling author, I want to drive a nicer car, or whatever it is. These are ambiguous, bloated statements. They mean nothing until and unless you set some identifiable targets as to exactly what the outcome is going to be and determine that in advance and move yourself towards that target. You're going to waste a lot of time. Now, where do we know this from? Now, I want to give everybody, I told you I'm going to take you through a triangle, but I want to add something else to it. If you have a cookbook, and I've often been asked, what is the best success manual you've ever read, the best book? And I always tell people it's a cookbook, and they look at me like I'm nuts. But here's the deal: if you go into your kitchen, you get yourself a cookbook. There's going to be 5 things you want to pay attention to. Number 1, there's a visual picture. All goal setting begins there. A cookbook does a magnificent job because that tells you what dinner looks like an hour and a half from now. You understand? Mm-hmm. It's really clear. It gives you an exact picture. You know what the outcome is in the same way that Frank Lloyd Wright could go out to a strange piece of property and tell you where the pool's going to be, what type of veneer, and all this type of stuff is going to go along with the beautiful lines of this house. That visionaries, people literally have an ability to be able to see the future in advance, and everyone needs to be able to do that.
All right, and you're talking, Gary, to someone who actually reads cookbooks. I love cookbooks, the visual. We've got 10 seconds, so what I want to do is let's pick up when we come back on the whole thing. I love the triangle, but what, why, and how? We're going to get into goal setting. You're going to learn by the time you listen to this show, your authoring world will rock. Dave Raymond will join us for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get back with Gary Ryan Blair.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Writing and reading are moving to the cloud. WaveCloud represents a whole new community for writers and readers to connect, communicate, evaluate, and share. Writers hone their craft and build their business. Readers build their favorites. Sign up for updates at wavecloud.com.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Have you ever had those books that have those rough edges on the sides versus the smooth, a paper cutter was involved in it? Have you ever wondered what it cost or what's the technique and how you do it and when you should do it? Well, we're going to find out, and with us to tell all about it is Dave Raymond, who is with Thompson Shore, one of my favorite printers. Dave, hi, and what's new in the different paper styles for printing?
Hello, Judith, and thank you for having me on again. I appreciate that. And one thing that we've been getting more requests for is what's called a rough front look to a book. Another terminology for it is a false decal edge. And basically what it is, very old-time books, they didn't have some of the trimming capabilities that printers do today, and they wouldn't trim the edges of the book. First, you'd have your spine where all the glue is and binding is and holding all the pages and the cover on. But then the top, the bottom, and the front would not be trimmed. It was a rough-looking book, and a lot of publishers want that today for maybe not all of their titles, but some of their titles that may be old westerns or could serve a very diverse marketplace in different genres. So, for example, we don't manufacture a lot of titles for Random House in New York, but they only use us when they want this what's called the rough front because they like the way the book looks, and it is fairly inexpensive. And really, most of the work is done on the folder. And talking about the additional cost involved, there's basically a one-time setup of roughly $50 on the folder. And the reason for that is we have to take off a perforator guide on the folder so that we can accommodate the look of that rough, what's called a rough front. So there's a $50 charge, and the paper is, we have to buy a little bit slightly larger paper than we would normally run. Say, let's use a trim of a 6x9 on a book. And we might have to buy about a half-inch bigger paper. And that really boils down to only 3 to 5 cents per book that is produced. So you got your $50 folder setup charge, and then the 3 to 5 cents per book extra for the paper, a little bit larger sheet of paper, and that's it. The folder does all the work, and when the book is done, let's go back to that 6x9 trim. So your height of the book is 9 inches. The width of your book is 6 inches. What you're going to have is you're going to have some pages, again, on the front of the book. It's going to be rough trim, so the pages aren't all the same width. There's going to be some that are 6 inches. There's going to be some that are 5 5/16, and some that are 6 1/16. So all in all, it varies about a 16th, a thin 16th, honestly, to a fat 16th. But it gives it that look where none of the pages are even, and that's why they call it a rough front.
Oh, sounds perfect.
And Judith, I did want to mention that we always love participating with you at Author Extravaganza.
Oh,
and
yes.
When we do that this year, I will bring a sample of this book, so any of your listeners that happen to be coming to the extravaganza, they'll be able to see firsthand exactly what the book looks like.
Perfect, because they do have that little bit almost old world feel, so I love that. All right, Dave Raymond from Thompson Shore, that's thompsonshore.com, and contact him, and it's Dave R. at tshore.com, and tell him you're interested in printing. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Judith.
All right. So the extravaganza for all our listeners is May 2nd through 4th next year. Put it on your calendar. Be in Denver. All right, Gary, we're into the triangle. We're in the what, why, and how. And the what started with the visual. We have 5 points in there. Let's go with it. In our 6 minutes now, it looks like they're telling me. Yuck.
You got it. Well, let me give you all the things in the cookbook. I said there are 5. You've got the vision. Next, you've got specific ingredients: eggs, milk, butter, and cheese. They won't just tell you go in and get stuff. Next, there's a sequence. There's a step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is critical. Next, measurable. It'll be 2 eggs or 5 eggs or whatever, and then there'll be deadlines. So let's now convert this into that triangle for a minute. Specific and sequential. Okay. The smartest thing for you to do as it relates towards setting and achieving goals is always look for systems that produce reproducible results, meaning that are systematic and produce a result at a high rate of probability. So a cookbook is perfect. Now, to give you an example of specific and sequential, if you go down to your ATM, you need 4 numbers in a sequential order. From a scale of 0 to 100, the answer is only 0 or 100. What percentage of time do you get your money out if you type in the right numbers in the right sequence? The same way with a phone number. If you type in the right 7 digits in the right order, you get the outcome 100% of the time. The same thing is true for your alarm system at home and the computer that you have you're sitting in front of right now. That life is dependent upon specific numbers in a sequential order. They do that and they produce a successful outcome. You always focus on results. Next, measurable. Everything in life is measured. So what are we talking about here? Well, the fact is you jump on a scale, it measures your weight. Go to the doctor, who's going to measure it, take out a stethoscope. The list is endless from the standpoint of balls and strikes and outs and innings and how much time is left on this and that and everything else. But we're surrounded by measurements. However, when it comes to people's lives, it's astounding as to how just how irresponsible they are from taking the time to measure their own performance. So, like I said, 265 days down, 100 days to go. What makes the 100-day challenge work is that there is a consistent daily measurement system. And the reason for it is simple. Most people think you set your goals once a year or twice a year and that's off you go. The fact is you set them every single day. Every day you have targets. And even to make it even real simpler, you are going to engage in activities every day in the same way that you're going to eat food every day. You're going to engage in behavior that does one or two things. That leads you towards your goals or away, that is positive or negative, good or bad, right or wrong, that adds value or degrades from it. That's all it is. Nothing is neutral. Everything counts. Everything has some type of a quantifiable outcome associated with it. So if you want to fast-track your results, the smartest thing for you to do is to have specific targets and measure the outcomes consistently, relentlessly. Because you don't want the grass to grow underneath your feet. And if you have a poor day where you underperform, you don't want to turn that into 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. What you do is you nip it at the bud quickly, you take corrective actions, and you launch again the next day fully prepared. The last part, as we discussed, There's deadlines. Same thing in a cookbook. There's time and temperature. The deadlines are essential because that's going to force your hand to perform. So the 100-Day Challenge really is a radical goal-setting program. It is designed to make massive, quantifiable results or quantitative results in your life quickly. That's really what it's all about.
And that's what authors need. So give us the website again for the 100-Day Challenge, which is...
Surprise, surprise, 100daychallenge.com.
And it's a 100. You don't spell this out. It's a 100-day challenge. And then how do they sign up?
You just go to that page, 100daychallenge.com.
And it'll walk you through it very quickly.
It is. But let me also extend, just for anyone who's listening, there's going to be a thing there that says enter your group code. If you type in YELLOW, 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 you'll get a $50 discount. That's just, a gift from being part of, obviously, Judith's community and so forth. So I wanted to extend that to everybody.
Well, fine. I hope people use that. Okay. And then before you go, you got to explain to our listeners, what's the execution gap? Come back and let's revisit that. I know we talked about gaps in the beginning. Let's come back to the people who have joined us kind of via performance gaps we talked about. What's the execution gap?
You look at the very beginning of the year, and as an example, let's just say your goal was to make $400,000, okay? Right now, you should have in the bank $300,000. If you do not, there's a gap between where you want to be and where you currently are. That's really what the gap is all about. Mm-hmm. So the objective of the 100-Day Challenge is how to close that gap quickly, straight up.
And so what the people who are participating in the challenge is that they will get the tips and techniques to close that gap so they can execute it fully. And by when they come out, well, really before the year's even started, they're really into the program.
Yeah, but Judith, here's the thing. My big thing is this, is that one of the other key things you need to do is you need to understand the power of no. The fact is
yes.
life requires two lists. It requires a short yes list and a long no list. The problem is most people have it reverse engineered. So let me tell you what's on my yes list. This may be helpful for everybody. There's only three things. My job is to create content. My job is to, literally, is to market content. And my job is to deliver content, speeches, workshops, anything along that way. That is it. My job is not to answer the phone, take out the garbage, to do anything else. And it's not that it's beneath me. It is not the highest and best use of my time. What I'm going to get across to everybody is there are only going to be 2 or 3 things that are going to produce 80 to 90% of your results. You have to identify what are those 3 things and put all of your time into it. That's really what it's all about.
Oh, you know what? I have to tell you, Gary, and we are down to like 30 seconds, but after our last show with you, I actually hired someone to execute those things. And I'm so proud of myself of all the passing over because I wanted to be on top of everything. I don't need to do it. It's all about the creating, the marketing, and delivering the information. And that's, so I want to thank you. Just with my few minutes I spent with you, I got it. I heard it. I can let it go. I don't need to be the perfectionist. Just move on.
Bingo, bango.
Bingo, bango. All right. My fabulous guest has been Gary Ryan Blair, the100daychallenge.com. Get involved. Take advantage of it. Go and use, when you sign up, put in the code word YELLOW, YELLOW, and save $50. I'm Judith Briles. I'll be back with you again on Your Guide to Book Publishing.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.